Virgo is a mutable earth sign. So it's very changeable. That's why I think sometimes people are like, oh, she changes so much. I mean, I get it. Like, well, you and I are both very mutable signs because you're Virgo as well. So it's like, oh, like she changes opinions. Like the fact that she's like with, friends with Alexis now, it upsets me, but it does not surprise me.
100%. Yes.
It annoys me. And also having this much stuff here in Virgo, I mean, she just, which way does the wind blow?
We gonna stir it up and do things our way. So if you wanna move, get out of our way.
Well, hello everybody, we're back.
We're back. Round 2.
The magic of the internet and time travel.
Yes.
It's Pluto and Aquarius time, so time travel is upon us.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
Aliens and everything. Yeah, we both said aliens at the same time.
That's really what I've been looking forward to while we're talking about it. That's what I kept telling my friends was like, the transition did not play out election-wise how I thought that it was going to. And I was like, here I was thinking that this is what was going to happen. I thought maybe it'd be some fun aliens, but no. And then literally the next day they were like, there's aliens in the ocean. We don't know. They're sending stuff up. And it's like, okay, well, at least we got one thing.
At least we got one thing. I'll take the aliens. And then I'm like, we are the aliens.
Literally. That's what, okay, wait, because that was a baked thought, but I was driving and was like, if they are on planet Earth, okay, hear me out. This is my conspiracy. Get my tinfoil hat. I'm like Craig right now. If aliens are in the ocean, they're under the same astrology as us on planet Earth. Like they are in our collective astrology. So if they're like aliens are going to come find us, we could be the aliens that are coming find it. They're like, we finally found aliens. Like, no, we were here the whole time. Yep. I thought it was going to be us to them, but it's them to us.
Yep. You're right. You're onto something. I
just needed a little reason.
The world can get turned on its head in many different ways, including that.
Right. Stay open. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
Yes. Stay open. I like that.
Yeah. Just be open to the idea.
Ooh. Well, let's be open to the idea of Tamra, Barney, Judge, Waddle, Tammy Sue.
Tammy Sue.
Tammy Sue Part 2.
Part 2.
Oh man. Well, okay. Yeah. Let's get back. Let's just jump right on in. So let me go ahead, and you would just think that I was back on top of this thing, but I'm not. It always takes me a minute. Yes. Let's do this. All righty. So, okay. I do want to start back a little bit with her but just because this is so dominant in her life. I mean, it's dominant in the way that we know her, the Mercury, Pluto, Uranus.
Yeah.
But one thing that is not negative. Well, I mean, I guess I could be negative. All right, just spit your thought out first, Stacy. Is that this, especially even like just like Sun and Mercury, but yeah, like Sun, Mercury, it can be very playful. It can be enjoying playing games, doing puzzles, mentally stimulating yourself.
Traders.
That sounded bad. Mentally stimulating yourself.
You what?
I said stimulating yourself. And I was like,
mentally stimulating.
Mentally
or not
stimulating.
She's crass.
Yeah. But traders, like doing stuff like that, like that, I mean, they say that like really what keeps you young is learning new things. So I think there's always an interest for her to like learn stuff or to play games and like do puzzles, stuff like that. Like even like they redid their home in Big Bear. Like she redid like that's kind of like puzzle making. That's learning how to do stuff. That's like, it's not just necessarily working with your hands. Like you gotta do stuff. So she likes being stimulated in those ways. Now, granted, some people can use that for bad of like playing games with people's minds and playing games like that. I mean, I don't know if she's really that evil maniacal in that sense. I mean, other people can come at me, and if you do,
Right.
and maybe I'm forgetting certain things. Look, I just like Tamara for a lot of
Maybe,
other stuff.
I'll say maybe you're forgetting.
Yeah, I maybe am forgetting stuff. But I also just think a lot of times it's like what's in front of her and she sees a truth and she wants
Right.
to make her way to that truth. And that just makes her, like I talked about.
Okay, that's the perfect segue into one of my notes because these are the notes. She has this I tell it like it is kind of thing. And I wrote down Lala has the same thing because they both say like we're truth tellers, but it's phony
Mhm.
because it's like we're truth tellers, but like no, you can't just slap that on to say like anytime you say something gross or bitchy or bring something up that like doesn't need to be brought up, and then you're just like, what? I just tell the truth. Like,
Mhm.
what a spin, you know?
Mhm.
Is that what this little combination she's got going over here?
I would say part of it is, yeah. Another part is even though I don't know because I haven't done Lala's chart, I'm putting Juno back in there because
Do you want me to
okay.
tell you? Wait, her hours may be different. Let's say I
Yeah.
know my placements are hers.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Oh, that's right. I do know.
Yeah,
You don't have Juno here. So
right.
Juno being smack dab in the middle of all these guys is okay. If she didn't have Pluto and Uranus there and it just was Juno and Mercury, like
Mhm,
she could be a lot more like loving and sensitive in her communication with people. But
mhm.
because all these things are there, she comes off very harsh and
Yeah,
and she doesn't think before she speaks, nor does she realize the impact that what she is saying has on others. So that's where that like I'm just a truth teller comes off because again, she thinks she's speaking the truth, but she doesn't realize how harsh her mouth is or
right.
how hurtful that can be or how like maybe this isn't the time for you to speak this truth at the moment. So
That's
that
what.
Juno has a really big effect because these are Juno is like a marriage asteroid, but it's also contracts. You know, it's like physical contracts, but it's also kind of like emotional soul contracts with people. And sometimes it's like societal contracts. Like we kind
Right,
of sometimes have these contracts with people that like, there's societal contracts of like, we're not going to talk about money in certain places, or like, we're not going to talk about, religion on a date, you know what I mean? Or at a party or something like that. But she doesn't care about that because Uranus and Pluto are there. Like she's like, I'm going to talk about whatever I want to talk about, not kind of realizing that like, look, we're in this space right now where this isn't the best place to talk about that.
right,
So
right. Well,
it
and
just is harsh.
right. And the second thing, I guess, was kind of relative to that too, is the thing with Jen and the background check when they were in London. That's where I picked up again today was when she's saying something to Jen and Jen's like, "You ran a background check." And she's like, "I didn't run a background check on Ryan." And you could see it when the first time she says it, it's like she says it and she's like, "That's technically true." And then she
Mhm.
latches onto it and she's like, "I swear to God, I didn't. I swear to God, I didn't run a background check on him." And it's like, technically you didn't, but I think it's just semantics that she's zoning in on because it's like, yeah, you didn't. You had someone else do it for you. You know what I mean? Like you texted a friend and had them do it. So I think because she says it several times and it's like it pinged the first time in her brain where she was like, no, that's true. I can roll with that. You know, and she's like, I didn't. I swear to God, I didn't. I swear to my kids' life,
Yeah.
I didn't do it. And it's technically true, but it's like, those are semantics. You still get the implication. And now on a technicality, which I
Mhm.
think Jen, by the way, side note, handled herself so well for the entire season, but especially in those last few episodes, even at their whatever it was, the wedding engagement party or whatever it was. When Tamara comes up to her, Jen put her back in her place. I was cheering from the sidelines because no one has been able to do that. And she didn't do it in this way where it's like cutting her down or what. She's just like, I'm not interested. And you keep saying the same thing over and over again and your behavior's not changing. So I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Diatribe of Jen, I'm pro Jen.
Yeah. Well, I'm pro Jen too, because I'm just like, oh my gosh, this girl. Because I also think the difference with Jen too is that Jen is well, I think before now she was not a historical friend. She was a real friend. And I think now she's a historical friend.
Right.
To borrow a term from Ms. Heather Dubrow. But she's like, oh, I think I just lost my train of thought. That happens. Pro Jen.
She handled herself well.
Yeah.
She wasn't putting up with Tamra's bullshit.
Okay. Yes. Because that leads us into, let's get out of Virgo. Let's go to Scorpio up here. Mars and Neptune. See, this is what's also interesting about Tamra's chart is that there's all these conjunctions here. Like, you know, we've got the moon, Jupiter, Lilith, Saturn, Mars, and Neptune. There's not, I mean, we can see there's not a lot of angles here or like, you know, like a lot of stuff here. So lots of conjunctions. So that's just a lot of like, almost like mashing up of energy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be good because sometimes it's a blending of energies, which is good. And sometimes it's a mashing of energies. So that it just kind of depends on like the energies of the planets. Like I would say the moon and Jupiter is a little bit more of like a blending of energies, even though, but in Leo, it kind of makes it amplifies it.
Right.
Like,
maybe in a different sign, it would be a little better.
Exactly. Yeah. This here, Neptune and Mars, this is a mashing of energies. Now, granted, it's a bit of a separation because Mars has already passed, it's at 25 degrees. So it's already past Neptune. So it's kind of a bit of what we would call a waning energy. So I would say it's not as strong as if it was just like, if it was right on 21 degrees or at 20 degrees, something like that. But it's still very potent. Because Mars rules Aries, but it also rules Scorpio, which it's in. So it's very powerful here. But so, and then with Neptune is like, it's interesting because it's about our dreams. It's about boundaries. It's also about the arts, television, film, things like that. So the fact that like she is a villain on television, perfect freaking sense. But it also means this girl needs to learn boundaries. She has, her boundaries are like, it's actually the perfect thing. Like she thinks that she has boundaries for herself, but the goalpost is always moving for other people. And then, but like, so she has her firm and hard boundaries, but for other people, no, she can move. She can like the arrow that's on that Mars symbol. Like she can just barrel through other people's boundaries. And that's what she feels. She feels that they don't have boundaries, that she can move through them, but her boundaries, no, these are firm because she's got her Mars in Scorpio.
Right.
Yep. So it's like, you don't talk about my kids. You don't talk about my husband. You don't talk about my money, but I can talk about your kids and I can talk about your husband. And I can talk about your money. I can talk about your drinking. You can't talk about my drinking. I can talk about my drinking. Like, no, you can't talk about my husband, you know, my divorce, all that stuff, but I can talk about yours. So
here's the squirreling away of, because it feels like she sits on stuff. And I think her and Heather kind of have that too. And it's funny because I'm pretty sure Heather was the one that was saying it about Katie, maybe, who was like, you drip these things out, you know, when it's convenient for you. But I feel like they do the same thing, like Tamra with this Shannon thing. You know what I mean? Like she always, you just see her will bring stuff up. I think with Gina too, it was like, oh, well, Gina 6 months ago. It's like 6 months ago, you know, like,
yeah.
Where's that in this chart?
The drip, drip, drip. Well,
The
I
drink
would say
I was thinking Scorpio.
it's actually here with her Saturn and Black Moon Lilith here.
Okay.
So Saturn is like, there's gonna be this like this there's really no real aspects. I mean, I don't really find this aversion like too I don't deal with them too much. Um
Right.
so Saturn and Aries, like with Lilith, she's got this deep push-pull between a need for like deep connection and a need
Mhm.
for autonomy. So that's where kind of like the drip drip of like I want people to know these things, but then I don't want them to know because it might show too much. Like, or
Right.
I might need people to like know this stuff. She also, I have this written down that she needs to dive into her fears,
Yeah.
especially of not being alone and not being accepted in order to evolve.
Right.
Like that's like she feels like an outsider at times. I feel it
Right.
she will always see herself, oh my God. She always sees herself as the victim.
Yeah.
Always. And that's what this is. This right here, because also Saturn is moving retrograde, which is not that big of a deal. But I think combined with Black Moon Lilith, she's she always feels like she's on the, oh my God. She feels like she's on the outside of the cool girls, so she has to be the mean girl in order to be a cool girl. Like, it's the only way that she can, like, get these women in with
Mhm.
her. And if she can, this is why I would really like to know which house that was in, because if it was especially in, like, her 3rd house or 11th house or even 9th house, if she was dripping out communication, and this is a way that I could, like, control people, if this is a way I
Yeah.
could get people in with me, then I would feel, like, more accepted,
Mhm.
that way. So because she can manipulate that stuff. But at the same time, also, I would say a lot of, like, what your question has is a lot of it is this Mercury, well, all 3 of these, because even,
Yeah.
like, 'cause, Uranus is very erratic. It can be very surprising. We just don't know. You just don't know with Uranus what the fuck you're gonna
Right.
get. So
Right.
whereas, always the words with Heather Dubrow is that she's calculated.
Mhm.
That's not necessarily the word that you come up with Tamra.
Right.
Tamra is more, I would say, volcanic and passionate. It's not
Yeah.
really what we come up with. Now, Heather can be passionate when she's
Yeah.
talking about things she cares about, but she's calculated. She's very
Right.
measured. We've talked about that
Well,
in the previous episodes.
and Heather's ability to be calculated comes from the fact, I think, that she can keep her fucking mouth shut. Because
Mhm.
that's like one of the, I'm pretty sure I read that in the 48 Laws of Power. They didn't say keep your fucking mouth shut, but that was the gist of it, right? It's like, if you got to be able to hold your tongue for several reasons, but especially, and I think Tamara does it sometimes, like I was talking about the dripping out or whatever, but it's like, Heather is always going to be able to keep her composure more so. And that's the person I think that has the true power, that can look and is like, no, I'm sitting on this. I don't have to lose it right now. I know the perfect time to save it. And this is not that moment. And I think that's Heather. I
Mhm.
think Tamra puts it in her back pocket, wants to save it. And then another moment comes up and she's like,
Mhm.
and just throws it out there, like she doesn't have
Well,
enough willpower to be calculated.
it's just like we saw her do it at least twice, maybe 3 times during the season. Anytime like Shannon got up and walked away from the table, she's
Mhm.
like, "Oh, is she gonna go drink?" Or like, or when she just says like, "You gonna hit me?" Where the fuck did that come from?
Right. That was wild.
It was so wild. Like Shannon hasn't hit somebody. Like what? Like it wasn't like Shannon has history of hitting people. Everybody
Right.
was like,
Or that she
"What?"
hit her face at all.
Yeah. And again, this kind of like, I just think of like, that's my opinion. Like, that is this right here. Like, that is this of like, just, it just comes out of her. She
Right.
cannot stop it. She just does not think before she speaks.
Right.
And something that I noticed and we talked about on the main episode this past week or the week before about the reunion was that at least in episode 2 of the reunion, I don't know, we haven't seen episode 3 when we're recording this, is that Shannon was actually keeping her mouth shut when Alexis first came on. And for quite a bit of actually episode 2 of the reunion or part 2 of the reunion, she was, and I was like, that's some growth from Shannon to like take it all in and to like wait and learning something from Heather of like, just wait, just give somebody, we've said it on here many times, give somebody enough rope to hang themselves with. Like,
exactly. I was just gonna say, especially when your opponent is someone like Alexis, where it's like, just don't say anything, just sit there. Know your opponent, ladies. Okay.
Yeah.
Just let her fumble around until she says something, and then just be like, oh, did y'all hear that? You know?
Yeah. And that's what Shannon did. I think she's like probably taken a cue from Heather. I think she's probably taken a cue from her, her therapists or whoever she is talking with, and maybe a crisis PR person.
That's really, all the ladies need one.
My God, 100%. But like, this is, well, actually, and something going back to the Mars here, because Mars and Neptune here, they do have a nice little sextile. So it's a nice little flowing energy in between all these guys right here, the Mercury, Pluto, Juno, and Uranus. So it gives her some extra bravado to think, I got this and I can say these things. I'm on television. I'm this badass villain.
Right.
I can get away with it. And she does for the most part.
And she does. She's not wrong. Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing. I don't want to see I said, when Tamra was put on pause, I'm going to use a Dorinda term.
Sure.
She needed to be. I was tired. She was too toxic. She was too bad. And when she came back, I was glad because the seasons in between had been very boring. And granted, but one of those seasons was COVID. So honestly, everything sucked then.
That was a terrible season.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
But the thing is though, too, is that she still hasn't really had much of a storyline. So she's stirring these pots. I just want to see Tamra with a real storyline. I don't and just a little less of like her storyline is going after other people. She can bring drama and fun. And I don't have a problem with like, I mean, I like to point fingers at her but she's pointing so many fingers at Shannon for her drinking, when we've got so much footage of her drinking and being kind of crazy, but some of it was fun. Some of it was her and Vicky and Shannon, like in Mexico getting drunk, that's the fun stuff. And we do enjoy seeing those things and we do enjoy the drama, and she's willing to say stuff that is, but it's like what Jen and some of the other women were saying in the episode, part 2 of the reunion, she just goes too low.
Yeah.
And that is what, in my opinion, this is actually the Mars Neptune, is that she cannot see how low she goes. She just, it's like a fog in her face, in her, like, of how sharp her tongue is.
Yeah.
So she just, oof. And she's got big dreams. I mean, I also will say another thing about that aspect is that I don't know. She's got big dreams and she goes for them. She's willing to go for them, which is great because some people won't. But I don't know if she can see how destructive that her going for them can be for others, whether it's her castmates or her family members.
This is my theory, and I'm not the expert here in astrology, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. But when I was trying to guess what her rising sign might be, the only thing I don't know why I was thinking Gemini. Well, I do, is because like Two-Face, and I know that's such a stereotype of Gemini, but I was thinking that, and then that would put Virgo in her 4th house, right? Because I was like, what area really is like jam-packed? And it seems to be family, with her kids not talking to her, with the divorces and all that stuff. It's like when she does have a storyline, that seems to be what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
And also Gemini is a yapper, you know what I mean? So it's just more credit for her being a talker.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Is that possible?
I mean, I hate to
Speculation.
yes, because I always feel like I'm wrong.
Right.
I mean, honestly, like my first thing is that she would be a Virgo rising, to be honest with you, because I think that she is I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, I cannot diagnose anybody, but
Sure.
she has classic narcissistic traits or traits
Yeah.
of narcissism.
Yeah.
However, that also can be super weighted to like the fact that she has just so much in her sun sign. Like when you're
Right.
weighted that much, but if it is all about you
First
in your
house. Yeah.
first house, yeah, then you've got these blinders up and you really can't see. So then everything that I've just talked about gets ratcheted up to 10. So even though the things that I give her somewhat credit for, still it still gets downplayed because everything is still all about her.
Right.
And I would say like, then that would put Pisces as her 7th house. I could see her marrying Simon as a way to maybe like I mean, she's been married 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And I think each one of them has been to correct some type of wound. She was married young, she was pregnant young.
Right.
I don't exactly remember offhand her parental situation, but I'm sure it was to correct. I mean, look, we all are trying to correct our parental situations in our
Totally.
relationships. So
Totally.
we've got all of those. I actually like Eddie. I think Eddie is a great person for her. He is very Piscean in the way that he presents. So I
Mhm.
actually think that Eddie is a good partner for her.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
physically sometimes has to like put his hand over her mouth, which, oh my God, I can't even believe, like, as I say it, I'm like, ew, the feminist in me is like, don't put your hand, but then it's like, it's Tamra. So it's like, I mean, maybe someone should. It's out of love. I think that he's just like,
yeah.
shut the fuck up. Like, there are
Yeah.
times when if my partner were to be like, please just shut up, I would probably need to hear it at some point. That was physically painful for me to say, but I think it may be true.
Yeah. Cause he also knows you're on television.
Correct.
I kind of have to, cause he grabbed her chin and like moved it
That's
over
what
and
it
he
was.
was like,
That's what it was.
stop.
Yeah.
I think it was probably tough for him, but he was like, I have got to do something right now.
Yeah.
And he's not going to yell at her on camera.
Right.
He's not going to yell at her. Like she's the yeller.
Right.
Also
it
like
wasn't a red flag when he did it enough for me to remember being like, you know what I mean? Like taken aback. So
yeah, no, she was so drunk out of her mind at that dinner. It was like,
like talking about like legal stuff where he was like the FBI is gonna be knocking on our door, bitch. Stop.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is that it flows down to second, third. Yeah. Then if this was her 3rd house of communications, of like, that would also be television, broadcasting, things like that. Like this would make sense. Also, like, and I think one of her reasons for being on TV is like there's a nice trine here between these two. It just like makes sense. Like that's why I kind of think that she's a Virgo rising, because she's so Virgoian.
That's so crazy.
But again, it can be weighted that way just because of that. Also, like, I don't think she sees her emotions the way that other people see them. And if she was a Virgo rising, then her moon and her Jupiter would be in her 12th house, and she wouldn't really be able to see them. Like you have to think of like the 12th house, like if let's say if it's like you're standing here and you're standing here at the 1 and you're facing you and you're looking across. So you're looking across at the 7th house. You can't necessarily, the 12th and the 2nd houses are actually your blind spots. They're like in aversions. You can't really see exactly what's going on here. That's why sometimes people who have their Venus in their 12th house, I go, especially Gen Xers and millennials will usually get this thing. But I think of always in the movie The Cutting Edge, when they're trying to get their hand placement, when she keeps reaching back for his hand and he can't, and he's fumbling around, he can't get her hand, and then it finally clicks. And that's what people with Venus in their 12th house are looking for. Like they keep reaching back for love, they keep reaching back for money or whatever, like it's in that 12th house, and they're fumbling around. It's like looking in your purse without any light on for something, or like not even looking in it, and you until you finally get it and you finally find it. And that's what that is. So I could see her just, my emotions are there and I can't really like get that. And the way she deals with her body at times, like she just like, it's her body, but it's not her body. Like it's, I can't really explain. I can't verbalize that in the way that it feels to me, but I actually feel it in the pit of my stomach. Like, I think she has a love-hate relationship with her body, but granted, what woman doesn't? So we talked about this before.
Right.
But I think there's,
I get that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that there's a lot.
And maybe that, because it happened several weeks or months ago now. It feels like a lifetime ago because that was pre-election, which is how I divide time now.
Yeah.
But talking about the autism thing, like that was what she quoted. And I'm autistic, for anyone who I've talked about on here before, but anyone who's not listening, like when she came out and said that, I was like, again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not able to diagnose her. But the girl who told me about my autism, who brought it up to me the first time, who was qualified to diagnose, was telling me, and I was like, how would you know? And she's like, once you see it, it's not really that difficult to spot. And I'm like, okay, I do get that now. And when I was looking back, because we had talked about initially when she first said that she had this diagnosis, or that she had talked to her therapist for 30 seconds and got it, I was like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a sticky situation to get involved in with like people's diagnosis. But just for me, that seemed very like, I don't know. The only thing that she really quoted was something, and this is why I was so mad about it, was because it's this like stereotype that's not accurate about autistic people not being connected to their feelings. Basically what you're talking about, like always trying. So maybe that's what she was thinking, and maybe a therapist could be like, oh, well, that is a symptom of autism. It's like, you know, maybe not being able to, I don't know. The way she worded it was that like, she's not empathetic towards people's feelings. And that's not that's not how autism presents at all. But it is, you do kind of have a tough time sometimes, or I'll speak for me personally. Sometimes I have a hard time, emotions can be too abstract sometimes. So for one of my bosses had to put her dog down, which I've never had to do. So I knew objectively, like, this is a terrible thing that is going to make a person sad, but I can't grasp exactly, you know what I mean? It's hard for me to empathize because like I haven't been there. But then when I saw it happen to my mom, like a week later, she had to put her dog down. And I was like, oh, I get, because now I'm close enough and it's like, I can kind of see it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it is like sometimes things are too abstract for me to be able to like nail it down. But that doesn't mean that I could watch someone cry in front of me and be like, I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Or like not like a complete disregard for people's feelings. Like that's where it gets to be like,
Because also like what you said, that latter part, that's sociopathic, really. Like of like being like, I don't care. Whereas like, I can't comprehend or understand is something like that's just different. It's very different of like, I don't know either. I have never experienced that and cannot imagine that because of my autism or because of something else. And but like you said, intellectually, I can comprehend that would be upsetting for you.
Right.
Because because that's the thing. Like, I mean, knowing autistic people, I mean, other than yourself, but knowing that, like, I just explain why I'm feeling that way. And they go, oh, okay.
Right.
And that's kind of the answer. It's like, I'm feeling upset. And they're like, well, why would you feel upset about that? And I go, well, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, okay. And I go, look, they're not going to understand exactly, but like, but the curiosity and the willing, they're not disregarding. That's the thing.
Word.
Yeah. Tamra disregards people's feelings.
Right. And when Jen came in, when she was like, you're fucking soulless, because that was not the same. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was not, I don't understand why you would feel this way. Cause there are times when, and my friend, I've got a friend who she will tell me stuff sometimes and I can see her being upset. And I'm like, I don't know. She even wanted to FaceTime me the other day and she was upset. And I told her, if you FaceTime me right now, I know that my facial expressions are not going to be like, they're not going to be what you want. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be, because I don't get it. Like, I don't get what you're saying necessarily about your feeling, because I've never felt them. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But like, I just keep going back to that scene when Jen is saying this and she's like, what the fuck, Tamra? We're friends. You know, like, what aren't you getting? It's like she's pleading with her to understand. And it's not because she doesn't understand. That's not what's happening here.
It's because she doesn't want to understand,
She's just not gonna fuck. She's like, I won the argument. I'm confused why you're still here.
I mean, and that's exactly why, like why she could be a Virgo rising. It's why she could, like, we didn't even talk on the nodes just because they're relatively, I would say her north node is in Taurus, ruled by Venus, and she like she needs to move towards love. She needs to move towards love and acceptance. And like I said, like, she does well in nature. And Taurus is another earth sign. It's a fixed earth sign. I think, being someplace like really, making sure she doesn't lose that big bear house and spending more time there probably is like will be very good for her. Virgo is a mutable earth sign. So it's very changeable. That's why I think sometimes people are like, oh, she changes so much. I mean, I get it. Like, well, you and I are both very mutable signs because you're Virgo as well. So it's like, oh, like, she changes opinions. Like the fact that she's like with, friends with Alexis now, it upsets me, but it does not surprise me.
100%. Yes.
It annoys me. And also having this much stuff here in Virgo, I mean, she just, which way does the wind blow? I'm not saying that she doesn't have convictions about things. She does.
Right.
This actual Mars in Scorpio, because that's fixed. She does. But it's just, and actually her moon in Leo, that's fixed as well. But I just, she's like,
does having a fixed moon make it harder? Like, is that a hard position? Like in general, not necessarily with her, but I'm trying to think. Aquarius is fixed, right? And
Aquarius is fixed. Yeah. I mean, it can be. It kind of depends on the totality of everything. Like, I haven't looked at your chart in a little while. But I mean, because the moon for you, I wouldn't say it impacts you as much because you're also a Cancer rising. So you are ruled by moon, and Cancer is also a cardinal sign. So, but like for her, who's not ruled by the moon, well, we don't know actually, because what if she fucking is a Cancer rising? I don't know.
No, God. No fucking.
There are so many Cancers and Capricorns in the Housewives universe.
Yeah.
So who knows? But like the moon is the most changeable object luminary that we see in the sky. It changes literally every day. So it's something. So somebody who has a lot of strong Cancer placements tends to be, even though that's a cardinal sign, tends to change a lot and tends to like very much go with the moods. I would say emotionally she is more fixed. Like emotionally she's more fixed, and even like because the moon also represents our body, her body wise she's more fixed. That's why, because like, okay, a lot of times I would say like the moon with Jupiter, you could have some more like issues with your weight. It could like increase your weight. You could have like things like that. But because for her it's in Leo, it's in a fixed sign, I don't think she doesn't really have that many weight issues. She might have gotten really big when she was pregnant, but then easily lost the weight. Do you know what I mean? Because also the moon is like motherhood and very maternal. So she could have like gained a lot of weight with her pregnancies, but then easily lost it afterwards. So stuff like that. Also, like her relationship with her mother is a big part of her life, but it's also in a sense like distant.
Right. I felt like she had, and I would have to go back and watch the earlier seasons because I thought that she had like mama drama in the beginning, and then her mom appeared on the show, so it was like maybe later in life. I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah, she did have mom. I don't remember it all, but like it's like they put it behind themselves. They're very, I would say they're probably like very alike.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of energy stacked on one side of the circle, right?
Mhm.
So maybe if she
Yeah.
had, it wouldn't make a difference because she is who she is. And I do think that these things, we've talked about before, I think it's like your programming, you know what I mean? So I think it's for a reason that it's all stacked over, but it may have helped her out a little bit if she had, especially if it was like a Venus or something on the other side.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if she had just had like Venus and Pisces, it might have just like made a difference.
Right.
Like, yeah, yeah, if she had that but this is the funny thing. So both Venus and Mercury, this is a little a little astrology knowledge for everybody. Take this with you. Because Venus and Mercury are so close to the sun, they're inner planets. They are always within about 2 signs of the sun, wherever the sun is. They will
Okay.
never be, so it would never be a complete opposition from the sun
Right. That's
because
true.
they're always going to be within about two signs at the most, like far away. So yeah, they're always going to be relatively close. Yeah. So that's why a lot of times, like, it's either conjunctions or or a sextile usually at the most. So the
Right.
only times you'll see like oppositions or squares are in comparing a solar return chart to a natal chart, or in synastry charts, which are relationship charts, things like that. So yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep. So it's a little knowledge drop right there. But yeah.
So there was no hope for her.
No, they're not gonna get that. I mean, it would just I mean, anyway.
She's good for what she is. And I do, like, I'm with you. It's not something I thought about because I'm going to be honest with you. I don't see Tamra changing. And we had talked about this in Shannon's too, because she was having her second Saturn return or whatever. And we were talking about, being 60 and changing is unlikely, not completely out of the, realm of possibilities, but Tamra changing, I don't think Tamra wants to change. And I don't think Shannon necessarily wants to change. I think she was like forced to change. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing with something like a Saturn return, is that change is forced upon you. Like
Mhm.
a Saturn return or a Saturn in the first house, uh, these things, yeah, it's thrust upon you. So
Yeah.
her Shannon's DUI, that change was thrust upon her because it is her second. You can't prepare for those things.
Right. Of course.
Also, like, yeah, and so I think uh, change is going to be thrust upon Tamra in whichever house that Saturn lives for her.
Right.
So, like, if we think that she's a Virgo rising,
Mhm.
and that Aries would be in her 8th house.
Gotcha.
So she would be like, that's death and taxes, that's other people's money, that is so like she could have a tax lien that comes up against her. You know what I mean? She didn't realize that she owed all this money on taxes, or or it could come back that like Cut Fitness had some issues, and so that would come back upon her, and da 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 da, those type
Right.
of things. I don't know. Or maybe maybe somebody in her family could die and she could get an inheritance, but that inheritance is fraught with a bunch of legal stuff that comes up for it.
Mhm.
I mean, there's
Right.
there's a lot of different things that can happen depending on what house it's in, yada yada. Um,
Right.
but yeah, so I think no matter what, like I've said this before, like this is these things are gonna these transits are gonna happen. They are fated events that are gonna happen in our lives. How exactly they manifest, we don't get to decide that stuff. We don't get to
Yes.
decide these things. And how we also get to these places, those are somewhat of our decision. I think we have
Yeah.
a 50-50 decision. Like we get to decide if we're gonna get up that morning. What time
Right.
we get up, might be determined by our alarm or might be determined by our child or it might be determined
Right.
by, our a fire alarm going off. I don't know. But
Right. Well,
these
this is something I had been thinking about too, because like what we were talking about earlier with Pluto transiting into Aquarius, I thought it was going to look a certain way. Now things are not over yet. I think it's too soon to like nail anything down, but I'll use the election as an example without getting political. When you have a transit, Abraham Hicks talks about manifesting something. And when you manifest something, it's basically think of it two ends of a stick that you create. So if we're manifesting community, because Aquarius, like humanitarian, all that stuff, how we get it is not up to us because there are two ways. It's like, okay, be careful what you wish for type thing of like you ask for it. So there are two ways. She could win and we could have laws change that benefit, femmes and all these and all there's that side of the stick. And then there's the other side of the stick that is maybe more difficult or more challenging and it looks different, but the end outcome and the end result is still community. It may be because you can't travel across state lines. That's an example, but you get what I'm saying. Like, you know what I mean? From like international travel is either you are traveling internationally and, going abroad, or you all of a sudden realize that you can't travel internationally. You know what I'm saying? Like it's almost two opposite things. So I think that's a good thing for people to keep in mind because a lot of people were talking shit about the astrology girlies on TikTok and they were saying like, you promised us. And it's like, y'all need to understand astrology is giving you this one things, but there's more than two, but for the sake of this argument, there are two ways that it can come about and you don't get to choose that. I'm just telling you that this is what it's going to affect. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll I'll say this. Pluto first entered Capricorn back in 2007, started doing a little dance and then officially moved in 2008. What was happening in 2008? The financial
Finance.
crisis.
Right. Right.
It's like and it's like who would have guessed 16 years later that we'd be where we are now. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I mean, and at that time, we also were electing our first ever Black president,
Right.
and now here we are. So
Right.
we don't know what's going to happen. This is a 20-year long transit. We don't know what's going to happen. I'm not a mundane astrologer, which is other words for like a world astrologer, like somebody who does world events.
Right.
There's some other people out there. I like besides subscribing to PCP and our astrology and liking it, obviously, like we want to do this because we talk about Bravo and stuff like that. But I mean, we talk about a little bit outside of that. But if you are interested, somebody I will recommend, Lori Lothian. She's Lunatic Astrology. She actually predicted Biden stepping down. She predicted the Trump Butler, Pennsylvania thing. I'm not going to say it. I just don't want the algorithm to get me. She also predicted Trump winning, but she didn't want to predict Trump winning. Also, I will say this. She is Canadian. She's not American. She is, and whatever. When it comes to anyway, her beliefs are not necessarily my beliefs, but I do find her astrology very strong. And that's what I go for with a lot of people too. And I know there's a lot of people who want to follow astrologers that believe what they believe, and that's totally fine. I like to follow people that their methods and their that their astrology tends to be right, if that makes sense. Then they're not just telling me what I want to hear.
Right.
And she's not somebody who just will blow smoke up your butt. And I think that is a problem that a lot of astrologers did. That's why I stayed out of it for
Mhm.
this election. And some of my friends would come to me and they would say, "What does it look like?" And I said, "It looks like a mess. And it looks like
Right,
I don't know, to be honest with you." Like I couldn't even tell. And I was like, because it truly could go either way.
right.
It was one of the few elections that like really, and so any astrologer who was saying for sure that it was going to go one way, I was like, no. And even Lori was like, it looked like it was going one way for her. And then she did a horary, which is I don't even know. I don't even do this. I'm not, I'm learning how to
Right,
do it. It's where you basically do a chart for in that moment answering a question. It's almost like drawing a tarot card.
right,
Like, but doing a chart, casting a chart in the moment. Like, I'm going to ask this question right now at 2:01 p.m. on Monday, November 18th. Who's going to win the election? And so then I cast a chart from that. And then I
right.
look at that, asking that question and tell you. And so that's what you do. And so some people do it like, when am I going to get married? Or will I get this job? Or are my money, problems going to get fixed? When and how? And so horary astrologers do that. And so she did that. And all of her previous charts that were like, maybe Kamala's going to win, all of a sudden went out the window, went to Trump winning.
Right,
So and
right,
she was scared. She was like, I don't know. Like, people will get mad at me if I post this. And I was like, I don't want to hear it, but I will take it.
right. Well, and that's the thing is like, we give the disclaimers about like not doctors, not lawyers, whatever. Like this is just this is my proclamation of like, don't turn on astrologers. Also, don't turn on them so quickly because let's not forget that some of these planets are very slow moving. And I'm not saying that anything's going to be reversed or
Yeah.
whatever. I have no idea. I have surrendered this to this is clearly something bigger than me. I'm just going to have to trust that the things that, we're hoping for are going to come out because I've been through so many situations, just like we were talking about with Shannon and her DUI. Things that are terrible often spark changes that need to come,
Mhm.
right? And
Yes.
like a lot of this stuff is like people looking to astrologers for answers for comfort. I get it, but also like astrology is not predicting the future. It's just saying like this is what's going to happen as far as like these aspects, and these themes and houses and all that stuff can kind of give you a general idea. But then it's like what happens from there, we don't fucking know. And
Mhm.
I'm not an astrologer, I shouldn't say we, but you get what I'm saying.
But also, and how it affects you in your own personal chart too. Like, there's the difference like Pluto's just there's actually a lot of big outer planets changing
Mhm.
placements within the next 2 years. So there are going to be huge dramatic world changes upon
Mhm.
us. Period. And it's
Right.
not just the United States, it's going to be worldwide. And I
Right.
mean, that's the only thing I can really say about that. And Pluto is kind of like the first one of them. And then it's going to be Neptune, and then it's going to be Uranus. And
Right.
so it's just going to be a lot of like big seismic shifts. And like you said, they move incredibly slowly. So when they do change signs, it's a big deal.
Right.
Um, and Pluto is the lord of the underworld. It's the god of change and transformation. It's the planet of resurrection. So if you think,
Yeah.
like you just were saying, like sometimes things got to get bad before they get better. It's just like sometimes yeah. So
Yeah.
and I think, and that's what I have found in my life with Pluto, because even though I am not necessarily, my life is very Plutonian in the fact
Yeah.
that, like we talked about earlier, that I have Pluto conjunct my moon,
Right.
and it's in my 8th house,
Right.
which, and so there's just a lot. I've had a lot of death in my life, and like
Yeah.
a lot of also being me starting all over again too. So, and I was actually, to bring it back to fucking Tamra Judge, she's
Yes.
had that too. She has started over her life many times. People
Right.
with strong Pluto, usually they know. So you can get very down. Usually people with strong Pluto, they can go very low, and their depression can be very, 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 very low, but then they usually are the ones that can bring themselves back up. So
Right.
I would also say with anybody who, oh my gosh, this is going longer, but I don't care.
Okay.
Anybody who might be thinking, who doesn't know a ton about astrology, but knows their chart, and they're like, oh my gosh, I have strong Aquarius placements, or I have strong Leo placements, like, and the Pluto might be like coming across, like, again, these are transitions in your life. These are transitions in time. They are not forever. They're
Yes.
not forever. Like, I think that's always important for
Yes.
us to, as humans, to realize that they are not, that these times are not forever. What is forever is our soul,
Mhm.
and that will keep going. And like, you decided, your soul decided to be here at this time and experience this, all the highs and the lows, the good and the bad, for
Right.
these reasons. And so when it gets really, really low, if it gets really, really hard for you, just the knowledge of like, this isn't forever. It's not going to get fixed tomorrow, which sucks.
Right. Right. Very annoying. But that's what is it from Matilda where they say as bad as it got, that's how good it got. Like
Yep.
that's what I keep trying to remind myself. Is like you're saying, like it's that slingshot effect of like the ones that can dip really low also can go really high. So
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So I think it's just, and like I said earlier with Venus, like it's always darkest and coldest right before the
Mhm.
dawn. And things aren't lost, and these things will change. Things are just going to change. The world is going to look different, and the world was always going to look different,
Yeah.
because no matter what happened or what happens, because time doesn't move backwards.
Not going
It is
back.
a flat circle,
Right. Right. Right.
but it does not go backwards. So it
Right.
just, it always was gonna move forward. So anyway, oh my God, we got so philosophical in the last like 15
I
minutes.
have to. I'm incapable of having a conversation without doing it. But also, there was just so much. There's been so much discourse on my FYP, and I'm sure it is yours too, because I'm sure you have a bunch of astrology of people. I think people are looking for hope, and that is good advice. That
Mhm.
nothing lasts forever. I have to remind myself of that constantly, and also thinking that it's like a concrete thing. I think that's important for the astrology on here too. Is like all this is speculation. You know what I mean? This could present any way, and it's fun to look at it and think about it, but maybe it's a note to all of us, including myself, who literally I have the planets tattooed on my arm. You know what I mean? Like I love astrology, but it also is important to remember maybe not to take it so seriously or so specifically or so surely, you know?
I mean, I will say this. People love astrology when it tells you what you want to hear.
Right.
They don't like astrology when it tells you the truth or what you don't want to hear. And just like anything, we love religion when it tells us what they want to hear.
Right.
We love men and other women when they tell us what they want to hear. Like, we love it, but we don't like, you and I have a friendship where we tell each other not what we want to hear
Right.
necessarily.
Right. And I think that's important when we're talking about Tamra and being the truth teller. It's like yes, you do
Mhm.
need a friend in your life when it doesn't present itself like that, but you do need a friend in your life that's gonna be like, listen, I know you love him. Okay. I do know that, but it's not good. Like the hard truth friend. So yes, I think it is an important disclaimer to let people know. It's like, it's not always like,
Mhm.
especially with Pluto, dealing with stuff like Pluto.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, we're all gonna get through this,
Yeah, sure.
and whichever side you're on, whichever you're thinking, like, and whatever it is. Anyway, but
We're
I
all
think
being no matter who we voted for.
yeah,
We're fucking now.
we're all in this together, and we're all
We're
gonna go through Pluto moving through this. And you know what? And I think I do think it is very interesting that I would say for people to lean into their Piscean friends,
Yeah.
their Sagittarius friends, which I am both of those.
I was gonna say.
I would also say your Virgo friends too.
Yeah.
Like, but and also you know what? I would say your Taurus friends as well. Because these are people who are going to be honest and loving with you.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, and real with you, and that kind of like, and be optimistic.
Right.
There, you can be a realistic optimist.
100%.
I mean, I love to catastrophize about stuff, but I'm also a
Right.
realistic optimist.
Right. It's not, look, I was talking to ChatGPT and it told me that it's not delusional to have hope because nihilism, right, is the opposite end of that. Like imagining everything as worst case scenario is just as bad as daring to dream. So
Mhm.
I just wanted to give that little tidbit because that's as political as I'll get. I promise.
Perfect. All right. Well, that is it for Tamra Judge Part 2.
Yes. We were nice.
We were nice. See? I mean, I think it's just like once you understand somebody more, you can at least hate them properly.
Exactly. Now we know specifically why we don't like these aspects of her.
Yeah.
And
Like,
then
look,
she
I'm
was
not gonna
always gonna be that way.
You know
what I mean?
She was always gonna be that way. And we can hope for change and we can go we just it just allows us to accept people for who they are. It doesn't look, this is another thing. Astrology is not here for spiritual bypassing either. And it's not here to make excuses. I'm not here to make excuses for any of these women. I'm here to hopefully explain and yes, humanize them so that at least, because I also don't believe in, this is my own soapbox. I don't believe in a lot of the vitriol that people write in comments about people online. Your comments will be forever too. And those words can hurt. You can definitely dislike somebody. You can dislike me, whatever, but that, and you can disagree with me or you can disagree with Tamra, but I think there's a very big difference between disagreeing with somebody and disliking them and writing like some of the things that we see, written. So like, I think the more that we can kind of understand each other, and I've always been this way. The more we can understand each other, the more we can like at least just go, well, I don't like her, but I can let it go.
Right. And move on with your life.
It's just on my TV. Anyway. All right. Well, everybody make sure you like and subscribe here on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on all the podcast platforms. Make sure you follow PCP on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Threads. I don't put too much on Threads. I mean, I'm on Threads. We're on Threads, but we barely put anything on there because they don't push the content. But Blue Sky, we're still technically on Twitter, but that's Jordan's domain. But you are also on TikTok, Instagram, and Blue Sky.
Yes.
There we go.
I have Bravo Bitch Fest, I think, for the, and then Dahlia Bradshaw at Blue Sky.
Perfect. And as always, like leave us comments, let us know who you want to see read, what you think of these readings. Be nice, be kind to us.
Or if you placemate, like if you share a placement, because a lot of times when I study other people's charts too, it's like you're drawing a parallel and you're like, oh, I do. And that I think that's why it humanizes, is because like that plays into my chart as well. Or even if they're not the same placement, it's like this is presented in different ways too. So
and Tamra Judge, if you want me to read you offline, let me know and I will do that. And I will not talk about it online. I will just mention that I read you, but I will not say what I said.
Right.
So anyway.
Give us that break time.
Yes, give us that break time now, please. All right, everybody, have a great day.